Another Canberra player who's been killing it, they're number 6. Ethan Strange, only a 21-year-old, big raps on him. Well, you know a thing or two about number 6s. You like what you see from him?
Oh, I like this kid. He's got a big future. And I don't mean to put too much pressure on him, but everything about him is timing. He certainly has plenty of it. He's got the ability to make very sensible decisions and certainly not get in a panic mode. And I think that having a coach that played in the halves, it mightn't have, 7 and 6 often play very similar roles. I think that's been an enormous benefit to him, and he seems to be making the most of it. But the thing that he has that's not all that common in the younger players is time. He doesn't panic and certainly takes a lot of time to make up his mind. And when he does come up with that decision, 9 times out of 10, it's the correct one to make.
Yeah. And he's quite strong too for a little fella, Salty.
Yeah. I think he's all class. I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders have a really good final series. I wouldn't be surprised if Kevy takes him on the tour. Because he can cover a few positions there. He may not get a test match because it's back-to-back tests. But I know how big a fan Kevy is of Strange. So I wouldn't be surprised.
What
if
I've
he
noticed,
goes on that tour.
No, sorry, Solly. What I've noticed about him as well is he's been his balls transferred to use his hands. He does it extremely well. If he's certainly getting the ball from the left-hand side, his ability to be able to change hands really quick, stick it back in the left, use the right hand for a fend, and he gives himself a lot of time and space to be able to make that option, make that decision on, am I going to let the ball go or try and get rid of the defender first?
And for the Broncos, we're hearing too there'll be a team change in that backline. Gemmet Shibasaki, so he was, I don't know what you call it, stood down, dropped, axed last week for that one game for turning up with a bit of alcohol in your system.
Rested.
Yeah. Imagine if that policy was in place when you were playing. Well, players coming from the Leagues Club, alcohol in their system, but it is a different era.
Teammates.
Quite a different era.
Been to the pub with them.
How tricky would that decision have been for Madge? So we're hearing he'll come back in the team, but do you risk disrupting the side further because Dean Mariner was excellent, Jesse Arthurs was really good, or 1 week's enough, Wal, to prove a point?
Yeah, I think it is, and He's also, he's dangled the carrot, the penalty's been given, and now you've got the player that wants to come back and prove something to the coach. Yep. So I think the ball's in the coach's court.
Yeah, it should be player-driven as well too, I'd say as well. But I think you're right, as far as the coach is concerned. And the standards that have been set as well have been player-driven at the Broncos. So I'd say the leadership group would have got together with Madge to come up to bring him back into the team. But I've got to give Dean Mariner a rap, though, for what he did against Melbourne. And Jesse Arthurs up against Xavier Coates. One of the hardest tasks in the NRL is to mark Xavier. He did well.
They did a really good job shutting down Coates, even though it wasn't quite legal at times with some of those block runners going through. But Tony Staggs and co and that were doing their best. People forget Jesse Arthurs broke his ribs and was out for 6 weeks. So he was almost a permanent fixture in that team. He was one of the leading try scorers at the start of the season, and then he got injured.
Yeah.
So you talk about hard luck stories with Shibasaki. Jesse Arthurs is another one there. And what else?
That's a big gutsy thing to come back. When you bust your ribs, I think there wouldn't be a player in the game that's suffered that injury that's volunteered to go back a week earlier rather than a week later. That's a safety issue, and I've seen plenty of guys that have had rib injuries prior to that, and they always seem to be uncomfortable in carting the ball up because they know that whilst they're watching the ball, the plan for the defender on the outside is to come in, target the ribs, and almost try and give you another 3 or 4 weeks rest on the sideline. So there'll need to be a little bit of confidence on board to be able to make a return comfortably.
Doesn't have too much padding around his ribs either, Jesse Arthur. He's probably the skinniest Bronco out there. He'd go good in the skin fold test. And speaking of the Broncos too, we're hearing that Corey Jensen is going to sign a one-year contract extension. So surprisingly, he was off contract at season's end. So he's been quite good in that middle forward rotation with Payne Huss and Pat Carrigan. So congratulations to Corey Jensen, another unsung hero.
Yeah, I agree with that, Adam. And I don't think he's received a lot of reward. Too many pats on the back. He's been very quiet with it, but he does the job that's asked of him from the coach.
Yeah.
He does. And by the way, that game last week against Melbourne, 13 times he's played Melbourne now. That's his first win against the Storm for going both Cowboys and the Broncos. And that goes back to include the 2017 Grand Final, which he was a part of. I'm a big fan of Corey Jensen. He played so well in the then Intrust Super Cup, the Host Plus Cup in Queensland as well. Big fan of his. I'm sorry to see Kobe Hetherington look like him leaving. I'm president of Kobe's fan club. But good luck to him though if he's able to get a long-term deal. Because don't forget, Brisbane have still got Xavier Willison, who'll come back into the team.
Bentakura as well,
injured, as well. So, but Kobe, he'll be missed at Red Hill. If he does end up going to Manly, which all indications are that he will.
Yeah, it sounds like they have a Queensland quota down at Manly, so DCE's gone. They need another Queenslander. So Kobe Hetherington can join Ethan Bullimore, another Queenslander who's killing it down there for the Seagulls. Yeah. Just finally on the Broncos, we'll talk a bit more about Reece Walsh, but on the Broncos, can they win the premiership? I'll admit, before last Thursday, I didn't think they could win the premiership, but beating Melbourne in such emphatic fashion, I now look at them and go, yeah, they're the real deal.
Yeah, I was the same as you, Adam. As you know, I'm a bit of a Melbourne Storm fan, and the only teams that beat Melbourne Storm are the top teams, the ones that are quite capable of furthering their challenges and achievements throughout the course of a season. That was something else, and certainly for the confidence department, that's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah.
My thoughts are, I don't want to jump the gun. Aren't we doing the tab big calls this week? Are we doing the tab big calls this week?
It wasn't on the run sheet. Yeah, I know.
Well, I think Sunday's game is a precursor to the grand final.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
Well,
I think this is the grand final. I say that with caution because I think that the winner of Sharks Roosters can go on a run. I also think that Penrith will be hard to beat. That's why I think this game is such an important one to win, because it gets you into that preliminary final.
And the week off.
And a week off. Yeah. Then you're back at home ahead of a grand final qualifier. But I've just got a feeling these two teams can play in the grand final.
Still no one's talking about Canberra.
Yeah, that's it. Surprisingly, they never faced off in a grand final. They were the dominant teams of the 90s, but they always missed each other.
The 1 year where I think we all thought it was going to happen was 1993, but that's a year that when Canberra were beating Parramatta quite easily in the last 2 or 3 weeks of the competition, and Ricky Stewart ruptured his Achilles.
Yeah, okay.
And they ended up playing in the finals. Brisbane actually lost to St George in the last round at ANZ Stadium. There were 55,000 there, and ended up finishing 4th or 5th. So they had to go the long way in the old top 5. Canberra were well set up. They were in the top 3. And Brisbane played Canberra in either week 1 or 2 of the finals. They went Manly, Canberra, then played Canterbury, and then played St George again in the grand final. But I think that was the year that we were closest to seeing a Brisbane-Canberra grand final. But if not for that serious injury to Ricky Stewart late in the season.
Yeah, could get there now in 2025.